Actually, and I just wanted to say thank you to Nanako and WRC and Rebecca for bringing me here today and involving CASA in our sort of perspective. It's interesting that you took a historical start to your presentation, because I was at a presentation a few weeks ago now, and it was behind the curtain about raising awareness about relationship balance and domestic balance and all this good stuff. And we were having a discussion afterwards with someone who came up to us and wanted to sort of interact with us. And she said, you know, it's really great that we're doing this, great that all these students are getting involved, because it was student-led and it was a fantastic, really awesome presentation. And then dropped a line that was kind of gave me a little bit of pause for a moment, and it was like, we shouldn't have left it in the hands of feminists. I thought, okay, it's an interesting thing to say considering the context. Because when you look historically, feminists have time and time and time again pushed back against the patriarchy and pushed back against the power structures of society, shook the foundations, and got stuff done. And we would not be here today. We wouldn't have had that event at MRU without feminism. Mm-hmm. So to suddenly turn on feminism and say, you guys are doing it wrong, it's kind of, I don't know, it's very frustrating. And yeah, so I'd like to share that, and love to give a shout out to all the amazing women, amazing feminists that came before us. Just, they're amazing, and we're just trying to measure up to their example. So just want to get that out. These conversations are essential to moving forward, and again, just historically, every time feminists got together, we took another step forward. And so it's so awesome that we continue to have these discussions, continue to push back against power structures, continue to push back against patriarchy, and really make progress. Yeah, so part of my job at CASA as an educator is I go around different organizations in Calgary, whoever will have us, and give talks around CASA's services and programs and that sort of thing. And almost always, I think every presentation to date, I always get the question, well, how do I prevent sexual violence? How do I prevent rape? And I always have to pause and think, how do I do justice to the complex nature of sexual violence in a sentence, in a 2-minute answer? Because unfortunately, there's not a simple answer to sexual assault, to rape. We can't just say, we'll do this and rape will stop. We can't just do this and say sexual harassment will stop. There's not one thing that we can do that will solve this. And unfortunately, all of this is based in our belief systems, what we see in the media, how we view gender roles, actions and beliefs that maintain inequality between different groups of people, and finally, how we view responsibility around prevention of this crime. All of these things play into sexual violence and why it's so hard to come up with a solution to this particular problem. And I could get into the plethora of victim blaming stuff. We already talked a lot about it, and we've all heard it before, and we all know how essential it is to stop using victim blaming language, stop putting the onus on the offender, for the survivor, for preventing their own assault. I mean, we've all had that discussion before. I mean, there's another thing that we need to look at, and it's an unfortunate truth that we need to start looking at. We continue to perpetuate harmful beliefs around this crime that blame the survivor, because it's less painful than accepting the reality that by not calling out sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, or any other mindset that puts one group of people over another, we're giving the message to offenders that attitudes and behaviors that promote that equality and entitlement over others are not okay and supported. So when we don't call it sexist stuff, when we do this kind of thing, we're giving the message that that behavior is okay. Offenders, they're not weird people. They're not monsters. They're not crazy people. They're not anybody special. They're people. They're humans. They're people that we've raised. If you have kids, they're people that we go to the bar with. They're people that we go to hockey games with. They're around us. They're people. They're normal people, and we don't want to accept the fact that people that we know and possibly love could do this. It's a hard fact to kind of get our heads around, and it's easier to put the onus on the survivor because it's less, there's less at stake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea that we could have trusted someone that could do this to another human being, it's a horrible, horrible thought. The question was sort of posed through to me when I was invited to this. How do people of all genders claim sexual empowerment in a society that sees sexual violence as inevitable? There's not one simple answer, but there are things that we can do. We do this by putting legitimate social accountability on offenders. We do this by challenging out media that's sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, or again, any other view that sees another group of people as lesser. We do this by creating a community where we can have open and free discussions around sex and consent. And we do this by creating a community where survivors have access to multiple avenues of support, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, employers, hell, even strangers on the street who believe them, do not blame them, and support them through their healing journey, whatever that looks like. It can seem daunting listing all that, think that we can make social change, but as feminism has demonstrated, and as we're demonstrating today, participating in this discussion, we're adding more and more to our own personal toolkit. We're learning the complexity about statistics. We're learning about the complexities of history and how that's factored into why we're here today. And all of that adds to our own abilities and language and things like that that we can use to move forward. So know that you're making a difference and that we will see change because we have seen change. Sorry, that's all I got. It's nice and short, so.
Thank you.